Beyond the Horizon by Michael David Rice. Front image by Michael David Rice. Narration by Rachel Wallace. Emma lit Roger's pipe as much for distraction as satiation. The smoke filling her lungs quieted the demons demanding their hourly taste of hellfire, but more importantly, quelled the hunger gnawing at her stomach. The slow dance of lights, tamps, and puffs kept her mind from the inevitable, while the scent of stale tobacco masked the hallucinatory aroma of meat over a roasting pit. Roger had marked the days by carving notches into the trunk of a palm tree, with deeper, more exaggerated marks for the day's salvage washed ashore. There had been no deep marks, and there was no way of knowing. The marks were Roger's doing, his desperate attempt to stay sane as the days passed with demoralizing symmetry. It was the banana tree that did him in, jutting out from the top of the rock face dominating the eastern portion of the island, and dangling its fruit over the abyss like some great earthbound anglerfish. After they ate every shred of coconut and licked clean the stores that washed ashore with the wreck, all that remained was the banana tree. Emma begged him not to. She tried reasoning with him, tried pleading. When all else failed, she tore open her bodice and offered to lie with him. A desperate and foolhardy gesture towards a man whose sole moral failing now hung from her lips. Roger scaled the rock face with an ease Emma would have never expected from a clergyman. She even allowed herself to hope as she watched him shimmy up and along the trunk, hanging cat-like along the underside of the tree's curvature. Roger dislodged 3 bunches before his legs slipped. The bananas fell into the shallows, sending up great sprays of seawater. Emma watched in horror as her only companion tried in vain to regain his perch, then lost his grip and plummeted. Flailing and grasping at nothing, he followed the bananas before hitting the water with a deathly crunch. Emma had dragged him, bleeding and unconscious, from the water. There was no way of knowing. The marks were Roger's doing, and now he lay in the cool of the small cave at the base of the great rock. The sun crept out from behind the horizon, eclipsed by the great rock face, light pouring over and around the body of the jagged anglerfish. Emma took a long pull, then gasped, and dropped the pipe. She looked down in time to see the ash spill and mingle with the sand, then looked at the red mark on the palm of her hand.
"You are smoking too fast, my dear. The pipe is a precision instrument, not like those cigarettes you suck down back home."
Emma's back went rigid at the sound of her father's voice.
"You see, darling, if you smoke too fast, build up too much ash, the bowl will overheat, like so. Of course, the opposite is also true. If you smoke too slowly, the fire dies and you are left with just a pretty piece of wood between your lips."
Emma's breathing quickened, sharp, tense exhalations cut off by the mounting tension in her chest. "You are not real," she said, refusing to look away from the spilled ash.
"Don't be silly, girl. Of course I am real, and I will not be spoken to in such a manner by my own child."
"You were hardly real even before we put you in that box!" Emma gasped, unable to hear her own words. She felt them leave her lips, knew their meaning by her tone, but they came as an alien sound she'd thought was far behind her. She tensed once more as his presence loomed over her, enveloping her like a rising wind.
"I will not stand for such insolence in my home!"
Father's presence swelled, his words crashing like the waves, salt spray speckling her face, his shadow chilling her to the bone. Emma only realized her eyes had been closed when she opened them. She blinked twice at the sight of ash and sand flying just above the surface of the shore in a microscopic blizzard set ablaze by the sudden influx of the morning sun. Her chest loosened in the warmth. She almost laughed at her own fear. She'd watched as they buried the man, sucked down cigarette after cigarette as they shoveled earth over his corpse and used the turned-up earth as an ashtray. Emma picked up the pipe and walked back to the cave. She never knew what she expected to accomplish by checking on Roger. Either he would be unconscious, or he would be awake, in which case she could do no more for him than she could now, or he would be dead, and what good would come of her knowing? His breathing had changed. The slow, labored breaths of the night before had become sharp and shallow. "I cannot believe you'd rather talk to him than me. I'm hurt, Em, truly, Lizzie said. Emma hung her head at the sound. I know, dear, I do. When it's Daddy Deadest's voice, you can pass it off as a dream or maybe even a ghost. Ooh, spooky. But when it's me, and you know I'm still out there kicking, well, that's a tough one to swallow. Lizzie, Emma said, drawing out the word, hoping to think of something to say. Don't worry, darling. I won't tell anyone back home that you've gone mad. It'll be one of our little secrets. Although it would be such a juicy piece of gossip, and it's not like you're going anywhere. Liz, oh, a new gentleman has taken up residency in Pinsbury, just up the road from you. He's just your type too, devilishly handsome and equally unbothered by convention. The rumours you'd have started. Liz, of course you won't mind if I take him for myself. You aren't the only wife in need of some proper attention. And besides, you're not exactly equipped to entertain at the moment. Liz, I say it is hot in this place. You couldn't spare me something to drink, could you? Emma's heart fell at the thought of lugging the one pot they had salvaged around the rock face to the small trickle of water running down the rocks, waiting an eternity for the thing to fill, then hauling it back to camp to boil. Why didn't you just set up camp by the water? Lizzie asked, echoing Emma's own sentiments. Because, echoing Roger's words, if a ship comes by, it will pass on the north side of the island. I need to be ready to light the signal fire, and the fire has to be where there will be the best chance of seeing it. Do you really believe a ship is going to come? Lizzie asked. The answer was no. No, a ship would not come. No one ever came. Yes. Liar! Lizzie's words echoed off the stone walls. I am in your head, remember? Then why even ask? Why bother lying? Because, Emma said, and took a deep breath. Because it has to be true. You really are going mad out here, aren't you? Lizzie said. You don't even sound like yourself. The Emma I knew never shied away from the truth. She embraced it. Emma tensed as Lizzie's voice became her own. Once you embrace the bitter reality that nothing matters and you are a pawn in a bigger man's game, then how can anything really be wrong? Sound familiar? Liz, don't tell me not to use your words against you. I am you. Roger let out a weak cry, his head twitching, his fingers tapping out an incoherent rhythm against the stone. Emma stared, transfixed and helpless until his breathing returned to its previous state. It wouldn't be the first time you devoured a man, just to satiate your own. Emma grabbed the pot and left the cave, Lizzie's words reverberating through her bones. The captain had not been ready for the storm. No one had. It struck with the instantaneity of a coiled snake, leaving its prey only time to desperately attempt recovery. Emma sat below deck drinking with the other passengers when the ship lurched, sending anyone and anything not tied down hurtling through the air. Glasses shattered against the aft wall, bursting like cannon fire as shards of glass and sprays of rum filled the air. The ship crested the first wave and, for an instant, gravity was restored. Then the temporary floor of the aft wall became the ceiling, and once more, all was sent plummeting. Emma groped for anything, her hands frantically searching for purchase. She found the lip of a porthole and clung for dear life before a passing body struck her, sending her hurtling once more into the void. A lantern collided with an open rum bottle, sending a spray of molten liquid through the air. Emma's already twisted stomach heaved as the smell of burning flesh assaulted her upturned senses. The sound of men screaming reached her for an instant before being drowned beneath the crack of a thunderclap. The world was rent in two as saltwater and splintered shards of the hull tore in from every side. Men snapped like twigs as they struck the far wall seconds before everything was engulfed by the sea. Voices cried out across the infinite dark of the water's surface, the final dying cries of untold souls cast below as tribute to the unquenchable deep. Emma clung to some unseen portion of the ship as the water tossed her like a rag doll at its whims. As the minutes dragged on, the voices grew fewer and farther apart, until at last there was only the sound of the wind and the waves, cold, wet, and ever weakening. Emma had clung to the shattered remains of the ship. As she watched the slow trickle of water fill her pot, she wondered whether it would have been better to have just let herself be taken under with all the others. "You cannot think like that," Roger said. Emma looked up from the slow trickle of water. "How are you?" she began, then laughed. He was not there. He was lying in the mouth of the cave, dying, and the man who stood before her was nothing more than the latest unreal conjuring of her failing sanity.
"That does not make me unreal," Roger said.
"Doesn't it?"
"I am inside of you. Perhaps not in the way you would have liked, but I am."
"Don't be crass," Emma said.
"The real you would never have. But I am not the real me, any more than I am the real you."
"You still speak in those insufferable riddles."
"And you still refuse to listen to anyone other than yourself," Roger said.
"In case you hadn't noticed, I have been listening to other people all morning."
"What I have noticed are your desperate attempts to ignore even yourself."
"What is that supposed to mean?"
Roger sighed. "You know what it means," he said. "You just refuse to hear it."
Emma threw up her hands. She looked down at the near-full pot, dreamed once more of having just let go, of sliding peacefully into the cold, dark, then lifted the water and started back towards the cave. She used the last of the firewood. After this, all that was left was the signal fire. "Why not just use some of the signal fire to make the next fire?" Lizzie asked. "Because," Emma said, then paused. Was she really going to defend Roger's edicts to herself? Hadn't cannibalizing, using the signal fire to feed, continue the smaller fire been her idea? "It's sad, really," Lizzie said. "How quickly you adopt his thoughts as your own."
I didn't, I just... If we use the signal fire to boil water, it lowers our chances of being seen, Roger said, stepping out of Emma's periphery. Lizzie scoffed.
"Ugh. And if she dies of thirst waiting for a passing ship, what good is your signal fire then?"
"If a ship doesn't come, she will die either way," Roger said. "At least with the fire, she will have a chance."
"You have her wrapped all around your finger, don't you? Plenty of good options, but you have to have it your way."
"It has nothing to do with my way. I'm just trying to keep her alive."
"Keep her alive for what? You won't let her live her own life. You just want to keep her under your thumb. You're just like all the rest of them. You—" Emma reached for Roger's pipe. She packed the bowl with trembling hands, then pulled a twig from the fire. She breathed in. Lizzie and Roger choked, then quieted. Long, slow pull after long, slow pull. She burned her way into silence. The gnawing in her stomach grew more apparent without the voices of her island companions, but the slow, constant rhythm of the smoke dulled the pain. It became an empathy pain for her own distant shadow, trapped, alone, waiting out the inevitable. It was not hers to bear. Emma watched as the water rolled up the shore, utterly peaceful, shockingly clear beyond the breaker. How unfathomable that below its crystalline tension lay the remains of countless vessels and untold souls, that something of infinite tranquility could rip into and devour entire ships. She scanned the infinite horizon for any sight of salvation, for a vessel not yet taken in the insatiable desire of the sea. As always, nothing appeared. She inhaled steadily, burning her signal fire to sanity.
"You'll have to do something eventually."
"What is there to do?" she asked.
"You have the same choices now that you've always had."
"So no choice at all," Emma said, looking towards the mouth of the cave.
"Inaction is its own choice, darling."
"What am I supposed to do then?" Emma's breath came in quick, short gasps. Her body still tingled from the smoke, and she swayed in large, over-exaggerated arcs. She raised a hand to her face to block the sun. The sheer exertion required caused her body to shake all the harder. "What? Now you want to tell me how to live?" Emma's hands continued to shake.
"You could never do anything for yourself other than refuse help when it was offered," Father said. "How I talked Edmund into taking you off my hands is beyond me, and even for him, you refuse to be anything but a shame and a nuisance.
Father,
making a mockery of his name, sleeping around with every new man to cross your path.
Father, please.
Pathetic.
Please.
Ungrateful.
Stop it!
The sound of metal rang out over the water, reverberating across the waves.
Lizzie stood over the fallen mound that had been her father, blood dripping from the head of the spade clenched in her hands. "I think we've heard enough from him." The cold woke her. The sun had long since dipped out of sight, staining the clear blue water ink black. Emma's limbs ached as she forced herself to rise to her feet. The fire was nearly dead. Lingering embers smoldered like beating hearts, emanating futile life, unaware of the imminence of the consuming dark.
"We cannot use this wood for anything but a signal fire," Roger had said, "and it must be lit by daylight."
"Who put you in charge?" Emma said, reaching for a log out of the signal fire.
"I'm just trying to give us the best chance of being rescued."
"You really think I need rescuing?" Roger did not say a word. He walked past her and picked up a piece of driftwood, approximately the size of the piece she had taken from the signal fire. "Well?" Emma asked. Roger sighed.
Why ask questions you do not want to hear the answer to?
Emma's blood ran cold. For an instant, she pictured clubbing the self-righteous clergyman over the head with the log in her hand and watching him bleed out before her. "Why do you do that?" she asked.
"Do what?"
Emma mentally bludgeoned his bleeding corpse. "Why can you never just answer a question?"
"I just did."
"You only ever ask questions." His skull caved in beneath her endless barrage. Roger sighed. "I'm just trying to give us the best chance of being rescued." "That's the man you're starving to death over?" Lizzie asked as Emma reached the mouth of the cave.
"What do you suggest?" Roger asked,
rising like a ghost from his own gasping body.
"That she kill him as well as eat him?"
Emma hung her head, too tired to interject. "Well, he's as good as dead anyway. What difference does it make?"
"Do you really need me to answer that?" Roger asked.
Lizzie's cackle sent a chill down Emma's spine. "Here we go again with the questions," Lizzie said, her voice growing higher in pitch with every word. "Can't you just ever say what's on your mind?" Emma looked up in time to see Lizzie raise a log and bring it down against the back of his head. The vision of Roger fell to the ground, slightly misaligned with the body of the actual man. Lizzie raised the makeshift club once more, bringing it crashing down on her fellow spectre. The ghostly arms flailed in shock, while the body of the man lay unmoving.
"Do you really think killing me will ease the guilt of killing him?" Roger gasped through a mouthful of blood and broken teeth.
Lizzie paused for an instant, holding the log above her head. She looked from the bodies of Roger to Emma, who held her gaze a moment longer. A stab of pain emanated from Emma's stomach, and the final blow fell in an instant. Lizzie turned to Emma, extending the log to her. "I can't do everything for you," she said with a wink. Emma reached for the piece of wood, then fell forward towards Roger as her hands closed around nothing. "He's as good as dead," Lizzie whispered in her ear. "Can you live with as good as?" Emma's body shook, then tensed at the sound of Roger's voice emanating from the cavern walls. "Just a little pressure on his neck," Lizzie said. "Just press down for a minute, and it will all be over."
"I can't stand it any longer," Roger had said. "I'm going up there."
"You can't be serious," Emma said, grabbing his arm. "How many times have you said it's too dangerous to climb the rocks?"
"What other choice do I have?" Roger asked, pulling free.
"But what if you fall? We have no supplies. I can't treat your wounds if you're injured."
"None of that matters. I cannot spend another day praying for fruit to fall from a tree that I can reach myself."
"Whatever happened to waiting for a ship and lighting the signal fire? If I reach that tree, we can make it even longer before having to light the fire out of desperation. That's just the hunger talking. It's making us lose our minds. What about waiting with faith? What about a light that burns brighter in the darkness?" Emma asked. He was nearly at the rock face. "What happened to the will of your God?" Roger spun around to face her, his eyes burnt with a wild passion she had only ever seen behind closed doors. "We have to eat. We have to last as long as we can before we light the signal fire, and God has left us the banana tree." "But you said it was not worth the risk," Emma said, her voice cracking, her hands shaking. The last vestige of sanity seemed to burn out of Roger's eyes. "And God said unto Peter, Rise and eat." Roger turned once more and reached for the rock face. "Please!" Emma cried. She pulled him back and around, then tore open her bodice. "Take me," she said. "Do whatever you want to me. Just do not leave me alone." It was as if she was not there. He looked through her, as if his eyes saw past all that was. He turned once more, and this time, she let him go. He scaled the rocks with ease. Emma watched in dread as he climbed slowly up and along the banana tree. He swung under the trunk, his legs sliding and gripping as he inched his way out above the water. 3 bunches was all it got him. Any sounds he made when his grip gave out were drowned beneath the sound of Emma's desperate cry. She was already ankle-deep when his body struck the water. She heard the sick crunch of his back against the surface. The small cave at the foot of the rock seemed the only place she could take him. Her arms had ached as she dragged his unconscious form to the place he would take his final, desperate breath.
"There," Lizzie said. "Is that enough for you?"
Emma reached out and placed a finger on his neck. "No pulse," Lizzie said, her voice wild and deranged. "Now it's stopping you." I can't. It would be..."
"You have to eat," Lizzie said, her voice growing suddenly deeper.
"What choice do you have?"
But I can just light the signal fire. Hope for the best." "With what?" Lizzie asked. "The embers of the campfire will have died by morning. I can just use some of the signal fire to keep it alive until sunup." "You have food right here. You can make it longer if you eat what is here."
"But he's a human being!" Lizzie's shrill laugh cut through Emma as her stomach cried out once more. "It would be wrong to..." Emma watched as Lizzie's lips spoke in Roger's voice. "Rise and eat. Let no man call unclean that which God has made clean." Lizzie's laughter filled the cave as Emma's stomach sent wave after wave of stabbing pain through her body. Emma collapsed beside the signal fire. Her arms burned like the molten iron that seemed to fill her every limb. Her breath came in short, piercing gasps as the cold of the night air tore at her dry throat.
"Of course," Lizzie said. "You won't be able to roast him properly on those few coals."
Emma looked from the dying embers to the tented signal fire Roger had built so many days before.
"You'll need one hell of a bed to roast him properly."
"But the signal fire," Emma said, then fell to her knees.
"You can light it now," Lizzie said. "Or you can close your eyes and pray to Roger's God that you will still be alive in the morning."
Emma removed her torn bodice and wrapped it around her hand before hurriedly lifting a coal and setting it in the heart of the signal fire. It started slowly, but soon the kindling caught and the tongues of flame spread. The heat and light of the fire were almost too much to bear. Emma staggered back, away from the inferno. As the fire burned down from a brilliant flame to an untouchable bed of coals, Emma removed Roger's clothes.
"No point dealing with cooked pants,"
Lizzie said, laughing and sending more shock waves through Emma. With the last of her strength, Emma dragged his body to the fire and dropped him on the coals. She watched as his skin charred and his body shriveled.
"You'll have to flip him, or he'll burn," Lizzie said.
I'm so tired," Emma said so quietly she almost didn't hear herself. She rose to her feet and took a shaking step towards the roasting pit. "Hello?" An unfamiliar voice called. Emma looked out into the darkness. "Not another one," she said, the rising fear in her chest restoring volume to her words.
"Hello? Who's there?"
A pair of voices called from the water. "Are you real?" Emma asked, and then the sun shattered the horizon. Even eclipsed by the great eastern rock face, the brilliance of the sun's first rays was more than Emma could stand. She staggered back, raising a leaden hand above her eyes. She heard them splash towards her through the breakers. By the time she could focus her eyes, they had almost reached her. "We saw your fire and..." She saw the fear in their eyes as she looked up to meet them. They looked from her to the smoldering pit in horror, then stepped back. "I had to," she said. "You don't understand." The sailors stepped further back. "I haven't eaten in days. Weeks. I don't know." She looked wildly around for the tree Roger had used to keep track of the days. "He was already dead," she said, staggering towards them. "What was I supposed to do?" The sailors turned and climbed back into their dinghy. "I won't eat him," Emma called after them. "You can come back after he's ash and see. Please, I didn't have a choice." Emma watched from the shallows as the men returned to their vessel. She would show them she was not a man-eater. She would show them. They would come back, and Roger would still be there, untouched, just a pile of ashes. As she walked back to the fire, she spotted Roger's pipe. She packed it up, only to realize she had nothing left with which to light it. She dropped to the ground with the unlit pipe dangling between her lips. It was hard to tell whether the ship was moving with the wind blowing inland. She reached for Roger's shirt. He wouldn't be needing it, and felt something in the breast pocket. He had kept one last match. "Didn't I tell you there was no need to pull from the signal fire?" Roger's voice asked from the pit. Emma held the match to the coals, then lit the pipe. Roger's voice quieted, and the smoke dulled the stabbing pains of her starving body. She would wait for them to return. She could show them. She would never have eaten him, not really. It was just, what other choice had she had?
Thank you for listening. This has been an Eclipse Fiction production. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to be notified when our next video comes out. Let us know what type of stories you would like to hear in the comments below. From all of us here, we hope you have a great and fantastic day.